When you close your eyes and picture Lamar Jackson playing football, you probably picture him picking and speeding his way through defenses with his legs. Nothing terrifies a defense more than dropping into coverage only to see Lamar take off scrambling, since he can attack any part of the field and create explosive offense from any which direction. But what if I told you there was a way that NFL defenses can almost completely stop him from scrambling at all? Keeping Lamar bottled up in the pocket has been day one, step one of every defensive game plan during his 4-year career, but it wasn't until this season that defenses unearthed a trick that would finally do it. They repeatedly blitzed Lamar over and over and over. 2 years ago, he was blitzed just 25% of the time, which was the 34th highest, but this year that jumped up to 36%, which was 5th, and it turns out his scrambling plummets when the defense brings this extra heat. When blitzed, he scrambles 1 out of every 50 snaps, and when not blitzed, 1 out of every 7. It's surprisingly counterintuitive, since you'd think he'd scramble more to evade these extra rushers. So this episode will answer why that's not the case, lay out why he scrambles when not blitzed, how teams scheme him up when they do blitz, and how it keeps him in the pocket, and what Lamar and the Ravens need to do to get defenses to stop. To begin, we'll outline what type of scheme the Ravens run to get a better idea of what exactly defenses have figured out how to stop, which has led to them blitzing Lamar more efficiently. As we all know, they are a run-first offense where they deploy the most schematically advanced ground game of any team in the league. But after being decimated by injuries before and during this past season, their team rushing yards per attempt dropped nearly a full yard. It was still high at 4.8, but losing that yard set up longer second and third downs, which was problematic since the second biggest part of their offense is play-action shot plays. Shot plays means we're trying to throw deep down the field, and on second and third and long, defenses aren't biting on the play fake. The Ravens ran play action at the second highest clip in the league, and they do that to play off their run game and to give Lamar extra time and space in the pocket, since that's where he's at his most effective. Defenses have been petrified of blitzing him on play action since it's harder to maintain gap control with so much happening, and if defenders are turning their backs to the ball after they bid up, Lamar taking off and running usually turns out catastrophic. But last year, teams began blitzing to close that extra time and space play action provided him, and his play action numbers when blitzed actually dipped way down. Defenses realized they were onto something, so they carried that same blitz to close the time and space philosophy to counter the Ravens' drop-back passing game too, cause hell, what they've been doing previously just hasn't worked very well anyway. Because Lamar likes escaping outside when scrambling, not really straight up the middle, when rushing just 4, defenses commonly used ET stunts to try and contain him while creating pressure. ET stands for end tackle, where the defensive end penetrates inside so Lamar feels pressure. Then when he starts to escape towards the open lane, the idea is that the defensive tackle is looping right into him, and this works on almost every other quarterback. But if that tackle doesn't get to Lamar immediately, you have a big fat guy on Lamar Jackson in a ton of space. Advantage Lamar there. When bringing the 5th rusher, defenses were worried they'd be screwed if he was able to still find a lane, since they'd then be down a 2nd or 3rd level defender to catch him. But by doing it smart, with the right game plan, he almost completely stopped scrambling. Blitzing a running quarterback is surprisingly similar to fitting the run, where each gap needs to be accounted for in some fashion. It's rare to have one more rusher than blocker, like you often see in the run game, so defensive coordinators have to do it right. They know from film study Lamar almost never scrambles straight up the middle, unless it's by design. So the Steelers' plan here was to penetrate each gap aggressively while leaving that middle A-gap open. Lamar is so difficult to rush because he's able to set up defenders during the down by starting to that A-gap to help his blockers gain leverage so he can sneak out the back. But when the Steelers bring that 5th rusher, not only does it clog up one more of these escape lanes, it also allows each rusher to be more aggressive in their assignments since they have one more body helping him out. They sacked Lamar 7 times and blitzed him on nearly 50% of his dropbacks, and the way they did it sped him up, sped up his receivers, and caused mistakes. Part of the Steelers' plan was to use their ends to establish the contour of the pocket to make sure Lamar couldn't escape outside, and use the defensive tackles to push the pocket from the interior so there wasn't space to step up. Lamar can't get a lot of depth like he likes, and even knowing there's a possibility his right guard doesn't pick up this extra blitzer creates that extra bit of panic. Typically, against a 4-man rush, he'd have the option to escape out this B-gap, but the 5th rusher closes that B-gap, which holds him in the pocket. This is still a really good throw, and Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends in the league. But as I said, the Ravens receivers like to operate in lots of space with speed, with Lamar having lots of time, so by making them more of a bang-bang rhythmic offense, they're thrown out of their comfort zone. Pittsburgh was able to change up their blitz looks to provide the same effects and give Lamar little wrinkles to make him pause just a half-second longer. This is virtually the same blitz, with this end keeping things bottled up outside and the 2 tackles creating that penetration while holding ground. But now TJ Watt is looping inside to both create pressure and give Lamar the illusion of the outside escape, but the same defensive back is blitzing. Lamar does a great job feeling that outside pressure and starting to do his usual push to the A-gap, escape out the back door trick, but having just that one extra body around him turns a long gain into a sack. The Broncos, who blitzed him 73% of the time, used a slightly different strategy with delay blitzes. They identified that Mark Andrews is really the #1 most important receiving threat in this Ravens offense, so by using the 5th rusher to hang in the Andrews window, then blitz, that kept Lamar in the pocket, and at times, especially on longer developing plays, his footwork and technique can become undisciplined. The Broncos structured these pressures to funnel Lamar to where the 5th blitzer was coming from, where they built a wall on the right so he can't escape, and used the left side of the rush to contain and hold ground. This forced him to bleed over towards the free runner, and you can see how his body positioning and footwork don't keep him in balance and lead to inconsistency. The Broncos blitzed both Lamar in the dropback game and in the play-action game, where their plan was to identify the key culprits and shut them down. They knew that, of course, they needed to first stop Andrews, and then the speed of Hollywood Brown. So by putting a cornerback like Patrick Surtain, who, I know, not every team has a Patrick Surtain, but by putting him on Andrews to nullify his speed, and then shading the post safety over to help against Hollywood taking away his deep speed, the Ravens roster isn't built to have a wealth of guys who can win one-on-one matchups in the passing game, even on picture-perfect throws from Lamar. Andrews is the go-to guy in all scenarios, especially against the blitz. So if you can figure out ways to take him away and remove Lamar's first answer with pressure bearing down, the Ravens just end up out of solutions. The answer for them and Lamar to stop the blitz is to defeat the blitz so teams won't use it anymore. Defenses really only blitz offenses that don't have answers, and the Ravens have never had the answers. Everyone in Baltimore heard all about the cover zero issues last season, and frankly, it was embarrassing watching the Ravens week in, week out come up with no solutions whatsoever. Cover zero refers to the defense playing straight man coverage one-on-one with 0 deep safeties, which means they can bring one more rusher than the offense has blockers. It is absolutely crucial to have a plan when facing this coverage, since you'll have an NFL defender, here it's TJ Watt no less, running straight at you completely untouched. The Ravens have kind of a plan where they'll motion Latavius Murray to the right as the first read, and if he's not open, they have Hollywood Brown on a quick route underneath. But since it's cover zero, no matter what, you need to throw this now to Murray. I don't care if he's barely open, and if not, then this needs to immediately go to Hollywood underneath. But instead, the lack of plan, the lack of coaching is just horrendous. And by the way, the Ravens lost this game by 1 point. This video isn't even getting into all of the more advanced stuff the Dolphins did against them back in Week 10, where they ran cover zero 20 or 30 times, and the Ravens had absolutely no answer or plan for it whatsoever. I did a whole other video on this Dolphins version of Cover Zero, which I'll link down below. It's way too complicated to quickly go over again here, but basically if a rusher sees he's being blocked, he'll drop underneath to cover one of the Ravens' answers to this coverage. And what's maybe most frustrating of all, this Steelers play we just watched came after the Dolphins game, so they didn't even create any better version of a plan at all. Cover Zero was an issue for the Ravens throughout the season, but was just one version of the kind of blitz that kept Lamar from scrambling. The answer for the Ravens is something I've been pounding the table about for years, and that's better schemed hot routes and sight adjustments. Hot routes are quicker routes built into concepts that Lamar can throw to if he sees the blitz, and hopefully create some yards after the catch. And sight adjustments are when a receiver sees the defender in front of him is blitzing, so he'll cut his route off to punish him. The Ravens obviously know what both of these tools are, they just haven't been able to implement them correctly to give Lamar good answers. The key for them to get defenses to stop blitzing so Lamar can scramble more isn't a trick with his feet, but a trick with his arm. Defenses will keep bringing 5, 6, 7, and 8 rushers to keep him in the pocket until he's able to do something about it and get them to back off. The problem has been clearly laid out for the Ravens coaching staff, and he who shall not be named. Alright, it's you, Greg Roman. You need to provide Lamar with more, but you simply haven't done it even with Miami, Denver, and Pittsburgh exposing you. It is clear as day what needs to be worked on, but it's been clear for a long time, so why should we believe things will change? The problems on the test are clearly defined for Baltimore heading into 2022. So, with football just 2 months away, we'll see if they find the answers.